170, and now constitutes the Indo-Gangetic Plain. 171. The original Indian plate makes its first appearance above the sediment in the ancient Aravalli Range, which extends from the Delhi Ridge in a southwesterly direction. To the west lies the Thar Desert, the eastern spread of which is checked by the Aravallis. 172, 173, 174. The Tungabhadra, with rock-cut crops, flows into the peninsular Krishna River. 175. Fishing boats lashed together before a monsoon storm in a tidal creek in Anjal village, Maharashtra. The remaining Indian plate survives as peninsular India, the oldest and geologically most stable part of India. It extends as far north as Satpura and Vindhya ranges in central India. These parallel chains run from the Arabian Sea coast in Gujarat in the west to the coal-rich Nagpur Plateau in Jharkhand in the east. 176. To the south, the remaining peninsular landmass, the Deccan Plateau, is flanked on the west and east by coastal ranges known as the Western and Eastern Ghats. Winking Sad Smiley. 177. The plateau contains the country's oldest rock formations, some over 1 billion years old. Constituted in such fashion, India lies to the north of the equator between 6 degrees 44 and 35 degrees 30 north latitude, and 68 degrees 7 and 97 degrees 25 east longitude. 178. India's coastline measures 7,517 kilometers, 4,700 mi, in length. Office distance, 5,423 kilometers, 3,400 mi. Belong to Peninsular India on 2,094 kilometers, 1,300 mi. To the Andaman, Nicobar, and Lakshadweep Island chains. 179. According to the Indian Naval Hydrographic Charts, the mainland coastline consists of the following: 43% sandy beaches, 11% rocky shores, including cliffs, and 46% mudflats or marshy shores. 179. Major Himalayan origin rivers that substantially flow through India include the Ganges and the Brahmaputra, both of which drain into the Bay of Bengal. 180. Important tributaries of the Ganges include Yamuna and the Kosi, the latter's extremely low gradient, caused by long-term silt deposition, leads to severe floods and cause changes. 181. 182. Major peninsular rivers, whose steeper gradients prevent their waters from flooding, include the Godavari, the Mahanadi, the Kaveri, and the Krishna, which also drain into the Bay of Bengal. Winking Sad Smiley. 183, and the Narmada and the Tapti, which drain into the Arabian Sea. 184. Coastal features include the marshy Rann of Kutch of western India and the alluvial Sundarbans Delta of eastern India. The latter is shared with Bangladesh. 185. India has two archipelagos, the Lakshadweep, coral atolls off India's southwestern coast, and the Andaman and Nicobar Islands, a volcanic chain in the Andaman Sea. 186. Indian climate is strongly influenced by the Himalayas and the Thar Desert, both of which drive the economically and culturally pivotal summer and winter monsoons. 187. The Himalayas prevent cold Central Asian katabatic winds from blowing in, keeping the bulk of the Indian subcontinent warmer than most locations at similar latitudes. 188. 189. The Thar Desert plays a crucial role in attracting the moisture-laden southwest summer monsoon winds that, between June and October, provide the majority of India's rainfall. 187. Four major climatic groupings predominate in India: tropical wet, tropical dry, subtropical humid, and monsoon. 190. Temperatures in India have risen by 0.7 degrees Celsius, 1.3 degrees Fahrenheit. Between 1901 and 2018. 191. Climate change in India is often thought to be the cause. The retreat of Himalayan glaciers has adversely affected the flow rate of major Himalayan rivers, including the Ganges and the Brahmaputra. 192. According to some current projections, the number and severity of droughts in India will have markedly increased by the end of the present century. 193. Biodiversity. India has the majority of the world's wild tigers, approximately 3,000 in 2019. 194. A sheetal, axis, stag-a-tempest tar browse in the Nagarhole National Park in a region covered by a moderately dense forest. 195. India is a megadiverse country, a term employed for 17 countries which display high biological diversity and contain many species exclusively indigenous, or endemic, to them. 196. India is a habitat for 8.6% of all mammal species, 13.7% of bird species, 7.9% of reptile species, 6% of amphibian species, 12.2% of fish species, and 6.0% of all flowering plant species. 197. 198. Fully a third of Indian plant species are endemic. 199. India also contains 4 of UAL's 34 biodiversity hotspots, 69, or regions that display significant habitat loss in the presence of high endemism. K. 200. According to official statistics, India's forest cover is 713,789 km2. 275,595 square mi, which is 21.71% of the country's total land area. 70. It can be subdivided further into broad categories of canopy density, or the proportion of the area of a forest covered by its tree canopy. 201. Very dense forest, whose canopy density is greater than 70%, occupies 3.02% of India's land area. 201. 202. It predominates in the tropical moist forest of the Andaman Islands, the Western Ghats, and northeast India. 195. Moderately dense forest, whose canopy density is between 40% and 70%, occupies 9.39% of India's land area. 201. 202. It predominates in the temperate coniferous forest of the Himalayas, the moist deciduous or forest of eastern India, and the dry deciduous teak forest of central and southern India. 195. Open forest, whose canopy density is between 10% and 40%, occupies 9.26% of India's land area. 201. 202. India has 2 natural zones of thorn forest, one in the Deccan Plateau, immediately east of the Western Ghats, and the other in the western part of the Indo-Gangetic Plain, now turned into rich agricultural land by irrigation, its features no longer visible. 203. Among the Indian subcontinent's notable indigenous trees are the astringent Azadirachta indica, or neem, which is widely used in rural Indian herbal medicine. 204. And the luxuriant Ficus religiosa, or peepal. 205. Which is displayed on the ancient seals of Mohenjo-daro. 206. And under which the Buddha is recorded in the Pali Canon to have sought enlightenment. 207. Many Indian species have descended from those of Gondwana, the southern supercontinent from which India separated more than 100 million years ago. 208. India's subsequent collision with Eurasia set off a mass exchange of species. However, volcanism and climatic changes later caused the extinction of many endemic Indian forms. 209. Still later, mammals entered India from Asia through two zoogeographical passes flanking the Himalayas. 195. This had the effect of lowering endemism among India's mammals, which stands at 12.6%, contrasting with 45.8% among reptiles and 55.8% among amphibians. 198. Among endemics are the vulnerable, 210, hooded leaf monkey, 211, and the threatened, 212, beddomstoad, 212, 213, of the Western Ghats. The last three Asiatic cheetahs, on record, in India were shot dead in Sarguja district, Madhya Pradesh, central India by Maharaja Ramanath Pratap Singh Deo. The young males, all from the same litter, were sitting together when they were shot at night in 1948. India contains 172 IUCN designated threatened animal species, or 2.9% of endangered forms. 214. These include the endangered Bengal tiger and the Ganges river dolphin. Critically endangered species include the gharial, a crocodilian, the great Indian bustard, and the Indian white-rumped vulture, which has become nearly extinct by having ingested the carrion of diclofenac-treated cattle. 215. Before they were extensively utilized for agriculture and cleared for human settlement. The thorn forests of Punjab were emingled at intervals with open grasslands that were grazed by large herds of black buck preyed on by the Asiatic cheetah. The black buck, no longer extant in Punjab, is now severely endangered in India, and the cheetah is extinct. 216. The pervasive and ecologically devastating human encroachment of recent decades critically endangered Indian wildlife. In response, the system of national parks and protected areas, first established in 1935, was expanded substantially. In 1972, India enacted the Wildlife Protection Act, 217, and Project Tiger to safeguard crucial wilderness. The Forest Conservation Act was enacted in 1980 and amendments added in 1988. 218. India hosts more than 500 wildlife sanctuaries and 13 biosphere reserves. 219. 4 of which are part of the World Network of Biosphere Reserves. 25 wetlands are registered under the Ramsar Convention. 220. Politics and government. Politics. India is the world's most populous democracy. 222. A parliamentary republic with a multi-party system. 223. It has 8 recognized national parties, including the Indian National Congress and the Bharatiya Janata Party, BJP, and more than 40 regional parties. 224. The Congress is considered centre-left in Indian political culture. 225. And the BJP right-wing. 226. 227. 228. For most of the period between 1950, when India first became a republic, and the late 1980s, the Congress held a majority in the Parliament. Social movements have long been a part of democracy in India. The picture shows a section of 25,000 landless people in the state of Madhya Pradesh listening to Rajagopal PV before their 350-kilometer, 220 mi, march, Janadesh 2007 from Pullia to New Delhi to publicize their demand for further land reform in India. 221. Since then, however, it has increasingly shared the political stage with the BJP. 229, as well as with powerful regional parties which have often forced the creation of multi-party coalition governments at the centre. 230, in the Republic of India's first 3 general elections, in 1951, 1957 and 1962, The Jawaharlal Nehru-led Congress won easy victories. On Nehru's death in 1964, Lal Bahadur Shastri briefly became Prime Minister. He was succeeded, after his own unexpected death in 1966 by Nehru's daughter Indira Gandhi, who went on to lead the Congress to election victories in 1967 and 1971. Following public discontent with the state of emergency she declared in 1975, the Congress was voted out of power in 1977. The then new Janata Party, which had opposed the emergency, was voted in. Its government lasted just over 2 years. Voted back into power in 1980, the Congress saw a change in leadership in 1984, when Indira Gandhi was assassinated. She was succeeded by her son Rajiv Gandhi, who won an easy victory in the general elections later that year. The Congress was voted out again in 1989 when a National Front coalition, led by the newly formed Janata Dal in alliance with Left Front, won the elections. That government too proved relatively short-lived, lasting just under 2 years. 231 elections were held again in 1991. No party won an absolute majority. The Congress, as the largest single party, was able to form a minority government led by P.V. Narasimha Rao. 232 at the Parliament of India in New Delhi. US President Barack Obama shown here addressing the members of Parliament of both houses, the lower, Lok Sabha, and Upper, Rajya Sabha, in a joint session, the 8th of November 2010. A 2-year period of political turmoil followed the general election of 1996. Several short-lived alliances shared power at the center. The BJP formed a government briefly in 1996. It was followed by 2 comparatively long-lasting United Front coalitions, which depended on external support. In 1998, the BJP was able to form a successful coalition, the National Democratic Alliance, NDA. Led by Atal Bihari Vajpayee, the NDA became the first non-Congress coalition government to complete a 5-year term. 233 again in the 2004 Indian general elections, no party won an absolute majority, but the Congress emerged as the largest single party, forming another successful coalition, the United Progressive Alliance, UPA. It had support of left-leaning parties and MPs who opposed the BJP. The UPA returned to power in the 2009 general election with increased numbers, and it no longer required external support from India's communist parties. 234 that year, Manmohan Singh became first Prime Minister since Jawaharlal Nehru in 1957 and 1962 took re-elected to a consecutive 5-year term. 235 in the 2014 general election, the BJP became the first political party since 1984 to win a majority and govern without the support of other parties. 236 the incumbent Prime Minister is Narendra Modi, a former Chief Minister of Gujarat. On the 20th of July, 2017, Ram Nath Kovind was elected India's 14th President and took the oath of office on the 25th of July 2017. 237 Government. India is a federation with a parliamentary system governed under the Constitution of India, the country's supreme legal document. It is a constitutional republic and representative democracy, in which majority rule is tempered by minority rights protected by law. Federalism in India defines the power distribution. Rashtrapati Bhavan. The official residence of the President of India was designed by British architects Edwin Lutyens and Herbert Baker for the Viceroy of India, and constructed between 1911 and 1931 during the British Raj. 238 between the Union and the States. The Constitution of India, which came into effect on the 26th of January 1950, 239, originally stated India Tobai Sovereign, Democratic Republic. This characterization was amended in 1971 to a sovereign, socialist, secular